He built a kill room, not for a movie, but for murder. Mark Twitchell didn't just binge-watch Dexter, he worshipped it. He studied every frame. Then he tried to become the fictional serial killer, down to the last horrifying detail. He lured strangers off a dating site with a fake identity. He wore a hockey mask. He attacked in a garage lined with plastic wrap, just like the show. One victim escaped, another vanished forever. And the killer? He wrote a chilling diary titled SKConfessions, a blow-by-blow script of what he called his experiment. This wasn't fantasy. It was a murder staged like a season finale. He failed as a filmmaker, so he rewrote his life as a killer. This is the real-life horror story of Mark Twitchell, the man who tried to live like Dexter and left blood in his wake. What you're about to hear isn't fiction. It's darker than anything on TV. On the surface, Mark Twitchell seemed like just another ambitious, even relatable young man living a quiet life in the suburbs of Edmonton, Canada. Born in 1979, he presented himself to the world as a man on the rise, a devoted husband, a proud new father, and a driven filmmaker who dreamed of making a name for himself in the movie industry. To his circle of friends, he was charismatic, if a bit quirky, a creative powerhouse who was deeply and passionately immersed in geek culture, with a special, all-consuming love for the Star Wars universe. This wasn't just a casual hobby, it was a central pillar of his identity, a driving force in his life. In 2007, Twitchell poured his energy into directing a full-length fan film, Star Wars: Secrets of the Rebellion. It was an incredibly ambitious project for an amateur, one that even managed to feature a cameo from Jeremy Bulloch, the legendary actor who originally played the bounty hunter Boba Fett. This achievement, along with his elaborately detailed homemade costumes of characters like the Transformers, painted a vivid picture of a dedicated, imaginative, and resourceful artist. He had graduated from a local tech institute's respected radio and television arts program back in 2000, and to any outside observer, it looked like he was on a clear, creative path to success. But this entire persona was a carefully constructed fiction, a mask of ambition and normalcy, hiding a far darker and more desperate story. In reality, Twitchell's life was a house of cards built on a foundation of lies. He masterfully pretended to be a budding film mogul on the verge of a big break, but he was actually unemployed and drowning in a sea of personal and financial debt. He spun elaborate webs of deceit for his wife, lying about his non-existent job and their perilous finances, creating a shared fantasy world where success was always just around the corner. Unsurprisingly, his marriage was crumbling under the immense weight of his constant secrets and extramarital affairs. The chasm between the successful man he pretended to be and the profound failure he felt he was became a psychological pressure cooker. It created a desperate, insatiable need for an escape, a different kind of fantasy, one where he wasn't a failing artist, but someone powerful, brilliant, and in absolute control. He was frantically looking for a new script to live by, and he found the perfect one in a popular TV show about a vigilante killer with a strict moral code. If you were watching television in the mid-2000s, you couldn't escape a show that had everyone talking. Dexter. The groundbreaking series centered on a brilliant Miami police blood spatter analyst who led a secret double life, hunting and killing murderers who had managed to slip through the cracks of the justice system. It was a certified cultural phenomenon, but for Mark Twitchell, it was something far more profound. It was a blueprint for a new life. Twitchell didn't just casually watch Dexter, he studied it with the intensity of a scholar. He dissected its plots, its character motivations, and its dark philosophy. In the show's complex protagonist, Dexter Morgan, he saw a distorted reflection of himself and a step-by-step guide to achieving the power and control he so desperately craved. His fascination quickly spiraled into a full-blown obsession, one he made no effort to hide. He created a Facebook page where he brazenly posed as Dexter, adopting the character's unique persona and chillingly detached writing style. He openly confessed to friends and colleagues how much he related to the character, a disturbing admission that, in hindsight, was a terrifying omen of what was to come. His personal writings, which would later become a key piece of the police investigation, revealed just how deep and twisted this connection went. He harbored a grandiose sense of self, feeling he was unique in the world, someone operating on a different, superior moral level. The character of Dexter gave him a perverse sense of validation for these feelings. Dexter was a monster, yes, but a self-aware one, as Twitchell would later write in his diary. He wasn't just a mindless killer. He was a meticulous, intelligent predator who consistently outsmarted everyone around him. For a man whose real life was spiraling out of control, this narrative wasn't just appealing, it was intoxicating. Driven by this obsession, Twitchell started to meticulously plan how he could bring his blood-soaked fantasy into the real world. He rented a detached garage in a quiet Edmonton neighborhood, not for storing a car or equipment, but to create his own personal kill room. Just like on the show, he began methodically outfitting the space, lining the walls and floor with plastic sheeting, and acquiring a set of tools for processing his future victims. But this wasn't a set for a horror movie he was directing. This was the stage for a real-life horror he planned to star in. His obsession now had a physical home, and it was only a matter of time before he would go looking for his first victim. By the crisp fall of 2008, Mark Twitchell was ready. His elaborate stage was set, his script was written, and his kill room was prepared. All he needed now was a victim. He turned to the vast, anonymous landscape of the internet, specifically the popular dating website Plenty of Fish. Crafting a fake profile and posing as a woman named Sheena, he dangled his bait and waited. It was soon taken by his first target, a 33-year-old contractor named Gilles Tétrault. On the night of October 3, 2008, Tétrault believed he was on his way to meet a woman for a first date. The directions he had received led him not to a coffee shop or a bar, but to the detached, unassuming garage Twitchell had rented. When he arrived and the garage door creaked open, the fantasy of a date was instantly shattered. A figure in a black and gold hockey mask lunged at him, brandishing a stun baton. But in this first real-world test, the plan immediately went wrong. The weapon didn't fully connect or incapacitate him, and what followed was a brutal, desperate struggle for survival. Tétrault, though shocked and disoriented, fought back with every ounce of strength he had. Twitchell, likely stunned by the fierce resistance, was not the calm, collected killer from his fantasies. He was an amateur, and his victim was refusing to follow the script. The two men grappled violently in the cold, cramped space until Twitchell managed to pull out a handgun, which turned out to be a plastic replica, and ordered Tétrault to the ground. Lying on the cold concrete floor with his heart pounding, Tétrault made a decision. He was not going to die there. He faked compliance for a split second, created a momentary distraction, and then bolted for the door. In a surge of adrenaline, he ripped the mask from his attacker's face and ran for his life, never once looking back. Miraculously, he had escaped. Shaken, terrified, and utterly bewildered by the bizarre and violent attack, Tétrault chose not to go to the police. He later explained that he was embarrassed and confused, unable to process what had just happened. He tried to put the traumatic event behind him, but for Mark Twitchell, this terrifying encounter wasn't a failure. It was merely a dress rehearsal. He had learned from his mistakes. The stun baton wasn't a reliable weapon, and he couldn't allow his next victim the opportunity to fight back. He had refined his script. Just 1 week later, he was ready to try again. 1 week after Gilles Tétrault's harrowing escape, the fake dating profile was active once again. This time, the bait was taken by a 38-year-old man named Johnny Altinger. Known to his friends as an outgoing, kind, and well-liked person, Altinger told them he was excited about a date he had arranged for Friday, October 10, 2008. Like Tétrault before him, he was given directions to the suburban garage, completely unaware of the violent horror that had unfolded within its walls just days before. Johnny Altinger would never be seen alive again. The precise, chilling details of what happened inside that garage are known mostly from a document Twitchell wrote himself, a confession disguised as a screenplay. When Altinger entered the garage, he was ambushed and viciously attacked with a heavy lead pipe, then stabbed to death. Mark Twitchell's dark fantasy had finally and irrevocably crossed the ultimate line. He was no longer just a fan, an admirer, or a planner. He was a murderer. In the days that followed, Twitchell began a calculated and elaborate cover-up that seemed ripped directly from a Hollywood movie script. He accessed Altinger's email account and sent messages to his friends and his boss, weaving a story that Johnny had impulsively met a woman named Jen and moved with her to Costa Rica. The story was just plausible enough to buy him precious time. Meanwhile, he began the gruesome, methodical task of disposing of the body. He dismembered Altinger's remains, attempted to burn them in a barrel, and then dumped what was left into a city sewer drain. He drove Altinger's red Mazda to a spot near his parents' house and meticulously cleaned every inch of the garage, scrubbing away the evidence of his crime. He believed he had committed the perfect murder, but his profound arrogance would be his undoing. Altinger's friends quickly realized the emails didn't sound like him at all. The tone was off. The story was too strange, too dramatic, and completely out of character for their reliable friend. They knew something was terribly wrong. Their instincts screamed that Johnny was in trouble, and they refused to accept the bizarre story. They contacted the Edmonton Police Service, setting in motion a professional investigation that would slowly and surely unravel Mark Twitchell's carefully constructed world of lies and deadly fantasy. The police investigation into Johnny Altinger's sudden disappearance began with the persistent suspicions of his friends and one crucial piece of digital evidence, the directions to the garage, which Johnny had thoughtfully forwarded to them before his date. This digital breadcrumb led investigators straight to the garage's renter, Mark Twitchell. When detectives paid him a visit on October 20th, he was unnervingly calm and had a polished story ready to go. He claimed he'd simply bought Altinger's red Mazda from him for $40 in cash because the man was in a hurry to leave the country. The story was a little too neat, a little too convenient. The police asked to see the garage, which Twitchell casually explained was actually a film set for a horror movie he was making. The movie, he told them, was called House of Cards, and it was about a killer who lures men from dating sites to his garage to murder them. The coincidence, one of the detectives noted, was freaky. The garage floor had some reddish-brown stains, which Twitchell nonchalantly passed off as paint from a film shoot. Unconvinced, the detectives called in the forensic team. When they sprayed the garage with luminol, a chemical that reveals the presence of blood, the room lit up like a constellation. It was covered in a massive amount of human blood, which DNA testing later confirmed belonged to Johnny Altinger. The case was blown wide open by a stunning discovery on Twitchell's laptop. Buried on the hard drive, though he had attempted to permanently delete it, was a document titled SKConfessions. The title, investigators quickly deduced, stood for Serial Killer Confessions. The document was a bombshell, a diary that served as the killer's own manuscript. It was a detailed 42-page, first-person account of a man's deliberate transformation into a murderer. It began with the chilling line, "This story is based on true events. The names and events were altered slightly to protect the guilty." It went on to describe the author's obsession with Dexter, the meticulous process of setting up the kill room, and the play-by-play of a murder of a man with a red car. But it also contained another stunning revelation, a detailed account of a failed first attempt, where the intended victim fought back fiercely and escaped. For investigators, this document changed everything. It not only described Johnny Altinger's murder with terrifying accuracy, but also told them that there was another victim out there, a living witness who could corroborate this incredible story. The police made a public plea for information about the failed attack. Soon after, Gilles Tétrault saw the news reports. Realizing with dawning horror that the man who had attacked him was now an accused murderer, he walked into a police station and told his incredible story of survival. With a living witness to back up the confession document, the case against Mark Twitchell was sealed. On October 31st, 2008, Halloween night, the man who desperately wanted to be Dexter was arrested and charged with first-degree murder. The story of Mark Twitchell is so profoundly disturbing because it's about a mind completely and willingly lost in its own dark script. He was a man so desperate to escape the perceived mediocrity and failure of his own life that he latched onto a fictional character and attempted to rewrite his own reality into a story of power, intelligence, control, and ultimately murder. He had failed as a filmmaker, so he tried to succeed as a killer, using the tools of his trade, deception, plot, and a detailed script, to commit a real and irreversible tragedy. The story of Johnny Altinger, a good man whose life was stolen to fulfill a twisted fantasy, and Gilles Tétrault, the man who bravely fought back and survived, serves as a chilling reminder that while some monsters are safely contained on our screens, others walk among us, hiding behind a carefully crafted mask of normalcy until the day their brutal, hidden reality finally comes to light. What do you think about the Mark Twitchell case? Was he a born predator who found a convenient role model, or did his obsession with fiction actually create the monster? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you want to see more deep dives into the psychology of complex criminal cases, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel.